Am I on? Is this thing working? Are my lips matched up with my audio? Is it too loud? You guys talk to me for a minute. I guess I could check on my phone, huh? This is interesting. I've never been live before, so this is a different ball game. Usually I get to edit out all my stupidness, so... Oh yeah, that's working. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Marilyn Manson today. I know nothing about this case outside of the original complaint and the supposed fake FBI letter. That's really all I know, and I've been waiting to dig into this until I could sit and actually dig into this properly and not just get bits of information from different places. I do see it, obviously, but I really don't... Did you say something VF? I did. Is it working? Is this working? Am I just talking to myself right now? I don't know how to use Streamlabs, so this is... Or StreamYard, sorry. You... Man, come on. Come on. I was sitting here like, man, I was just talking for like 30 seconds, and all of a sudden I'm just talking to myself here? Come on, man. Okay. You're messing with me on my first stream. That's great. This is going to be fun, I think. But no, I mean, this is interesting, and I don't think... How should I say this? I don't think this conversation should stop after one polarizing trial. I think anything that we can do... If this is true, I don't know anything about this, so I'm really going to try not to pick a side until I do hear some of this, and I know this information is going to be coming from one side, but I do trust this one side more than I trust the other sides that I've seen so far. So I am going to probably question this a lot, and that is not me necessarily questioning Kurtz at all. That is just me questioning what the evidence actually is, and did this stuff actually happen? Because I wasn't there, I don't know any of this stuff, and I don't really know any of this stuff anyways. So I don't want it to come off like I'm questioning her necessarily, but I do, if this stuff is true, I think more people do need to talk about it. It is an issue that will continue probably forever, but the more people that actually talk about it in a truthful manner, I think is important, if that makes sense. So that's why I personally want to dig into the Maryland case. I could have stopped my interest after Johnny Depp, but that's not really what I'm interested in doing. This is kind of a topic that I'm interested in. So this is something that I want to do, and I want to help spread truth if there is truth to the matter to spread. So that's why I'm gonna start here. That she said that this is the best place to start if you know nothing about it. If you guys have seen this, I'll be watching your chats to see what you have to say, because anything extra is nice, and anything extra that I can get your input and then go look up later is good for my research and just my point of view. So let me know what you guys think as we do talk about this stuff. Yeah, I'm happy too. I've been wanting to do a live stream for a while, but it's just such a different thing. So like when I sit here and I talk to the camera, I can edit out whatever I want. If I say something stupid, I could talk for 20 minutes and cut it out. If I say something stupid here, you're getting it in real time. So it's kind of one of those things where it is a little nerve-wracking. I'm not necessarily the best public speaker, and at least with public speaking, you can kind of lock eyes with someone and say, hey, like, I'm just going to focus on you. I just get to focus on my camera, and now I'm talking to you guys here and be awkward about it. So I am happy I'm doing it too, and I'm going to hopefully get more comfortable doing this and be able to do this more. Is something that I've been wanting to do. I think live streaming and actually interacting with people is super cool. That's kind of what I want to do with my platform, is be able to engage with an audience and engage not only here but on Twitter, and kind of just be engaged with everybody, and not just be a content creator that doesn't talk to anyone or let anyone talk. I want to be able to build some sort of a platform that we can do these kind of things and actually have discussions and actually get points of views out that are not just mine or not just someone else's, but actually have something that we can all discuss, if that makes sense. Oh yeah, I imagine. I know Manson as his artist. I don't know him as a person. Obviously, I don't know how he is as a person, but I know him as an artist. I know what he portrays. But that's where I think a lot of people get hung up on this is you are not always what you portray. So I assume if they are attacking him as an artist, they are trying to link his portrayal of who he is as an artist to who he is as a person, and that is a very bad thing to do in my opinion, and that is one thing that I'm super passionate about, and I even made a video about it a little bit ago called Separating the Art from the Artist. Sometimes their art may be problematic, yes, but they are very good people in real life. And so when they attack his art as he is as a person, that's where my interests really come into these things. So I'm interested to see how they attack him as a person by portraying his self as an artist into that. StreamYard is super easy. I use OBS for my videos, and StreamYard is super easy, but it's also new, and I set it up yesterday, so I've had to figure out how to get my microphone set up. I'm running my microphone through a different plugin, and then my video from it. So it's easy once you figure it out. So if you do want to go that route, it's probably the easiest to start live streaming. But if you want to record separately, there's some other things that you could do. I actually do video production, so it's really weird doing this kind of stuff because I'm never in front of the camera. I have been behind the camera for 6 or 8 years or however long it's been now. So this first like month and a half or 2 months of being on camera is completely different for me. Okay, well, I'm just going to jump into the video here. I have it pulled up over here. I'll share the screen. I'm going to jump in and see what she has to say, and then I will probably pause and question things, like I said, and not necessarily question things, but just discuss and try to figure some more stuff out. And she gave me permission to use this. So don't run to her and say, hey, he's using your stuff without permission, because I totally got permission. So, okay, let me share the screen. And I'll probably have to get confirmation that my screen is playing audio as well. Okay. Hey, I appreciate that. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel like I should do this more. Okay, let's get into this. And tell me if this is too loud. So, like I said, I am going to need some confirmation until we get this settled in here.
So if you thought the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation was interesting, you're going to find the story that I have for you pretty fascinating. Some of you know that in 2021, rock star Marilyn Manson was the subject of various Me Too type allegations. Now, Marilyn Manson's best known accuser, the Westworld actress Evan Rachel Wood, actually made a documentary, a 2-part documentary that aired on HBO called Phoenix Rising. This was directed by...
I didn't know that. I am probably going to go watch that and see what they have to say in full length. That is interesting. Can you guys hear this?
Wood's friend, Amy Berg, and the subject of the entire 2-part documentary was Marilyn Manson. It was a takedown piece of Marilyn Manson. Now, Marilyn Manson was also sued by 4 of his accusers. One of those suits has already been dismissed by the judge. And Marilyn Manson, in March, before the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial had even started, sued Evan Rachel.
Yeah, can you turn it up a little bit? Yes, of course I can. Let's see.
Rachel Wood and her former girlfriend, Oma Gore, for a range of things, including intentional infliction of emotional distress, computer fraud, defamation, and impersonation. So what?
See, that is very interesting because I see a lot of people talk about this case, and I only see them. That's better. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go back and watch that. I think that's super interesting that it's similar to what's going on right now with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Is there's after everything. This is before that. So after everything, they're coming out with these documentary type hit pieces. They use media to hide behind a lot of lies a lot, and it's you see it firsthand. It's disgusting. But what I was saying is, a lot of people only are talking about how it's related to Johnny Depp's case because of the defamation, but there's 4 for actual complaints. And I think, I'm not sure, but I feel like impersonation and the violation of the computer data and access fraud, I think those are actually pretty major charges if I know anything about that. So that it's interesting that that is not as big of a deal, in my opinion, or at least that it's not as talked about.
Of emotional distress, computer fraud, defamation, and impersonation. So what the heck is up with all of this? Why is Manson suing? And why do I believe that Marilyn Manson is innocent and is the victim of a Me Too hoax? Let's talk about it. So this all began in 2006 when Marilyn Manson started dating Evan Rachel Wood. She was 19 when they started dating. She was 18 when they met at the Chateau Marmont, and he was in his late 30s. Now, Evan at this point was already a kind of established actress. She had been working for many years.
See, I've seen that. I have seen that be thrown around. It's also been thrown around in Johnny Depp. It doesn't matter that she's 19 and he's 30. By 19, she was able to make those decisions to go hang out with a 30-year-old. If he conned her into hanging out with her, that's one thing, but she was an absolute, you're an adult. At 19, 20, you're moved out. If you're moved out of the house, you're working, you're doing things, you're an adult. You might make bad decisions, you might still be young and stupid, but you're an adult and you can make those stupid decisions. So I hate that as an argument in any of this stuff.
Years in the industry since childhood. She had already been on TV shows and in movies, and had just starred opposite Edward Norton in a noir film. So Evan's recent statements about Marilyn Manson being controlling and abusive are in contradiction to many statements that she made not only at the time when she was dating him, but for years after their relationship, even after their relationship had ended. She said in interviews that people would be shocked by how healthy their relationship was, that he gave her complete freedom, that he was not controlling, that he allowed her to be herself. And of course, she said in multiple interviews that Heart-Shaped Glasses, that music video, was not real sex and that she loved doing that video. Now,
that whole thing about contradicting about being controlled, but also before she said that he allowed her to be herself, that is, I think he probably allowed her to be herself. If you know anything about music and acting, and especially the type of person that Marilyn Manson portrays, it is all about an act and being yourself and being comfortable with what you are portraying. I don't know for a fact, but if anything like that is true, I imagine that he probably would rather her express herself and figure herself out than not. That's just how expression behind music and art works. So that's interesting.
Now, of course, she disavows all of these interviews now, but I'm just putting them out there because they are of some significance. Then in 2016 is the first time that we hear from Evan that she says that she has been sexually assaulted before. She said in a Rolling Stone article that she was assaulted by a significant other and by the owner of a bar. Now, what's interesting is that elsewhere in the same interview, she talks about Marilyn Manson in a different context. Clearly, if you read the whole article, it seems quite evident that Marilyn Manson is likely not the significant other that she's referring to in the article. So that is a bit odd there, but nothing conclusive for sure. But all of this starts to add up after a while. Now, Evan has recently made the claim that the music video Heart-Shaped Glasses was not simulated sex, but that actually Manson raped her on the set of Heart-Shaped Glasses, that what we're seeing in the music video is actually a rape, that she was intoxicated, completely wasted out of her mind, couldn't consent, and also that she felt horrible after she did this. Now, not only she said in multiple interviews that
this is what I'm about to talk about right here. That is most likely a lie. If you know anything about how videos are made, especially as a professional, I could see it if he was a amateur rocker, you were filming this with your mom's VHS tape from the 1990s, and you were shooting it with your friends in a garage and you made a set. He's not that. They absolutely... Everything is set up, everything is planned, everything is blocked out, everything is planned months in advance. They have, even if the script is the music video, the script of the actions is talked about and worked on. I would highly doubt in a professional setting any producer, any cameraman, any director, any of the lighting people, and any of the extras would let this go on. Yeah, exactly. These things are huge. Even the smallest music videos, a music video that takes 4 minutes could take 30 plus hours of shooting, tons of hours of editing, tons of crew members. There could be 30 crew members to shoot that 4-minute music video. So to say that not one person spoke up for someone being raped on set, that doesn't happen in professional settings. That stuff does happen behind the scenes. It does happen with sleazy producers. It does happen with sleazy directors. Some of that does happen behind the scenes. But on the set, that is in the eye of everybody. That stuff does not happen on set. There are, times where people might get mad, get in a fight, get in an argument. But people, I don't know of, I personally can't remember any event of someone being raped on a video set, a professional set like that. Like I said, it may happen in amateur shoots, but those are done by production companies. I have a hard time believing a production company would put their name at risk by letting that go on. That doesn't happen. So it kind of makes me mad that she's saying that kind of stuff. Yeah, it doesn't happen. And those scenes, what's really crazy is those scenes that look like there's a lot of people in there could only be 12 people packed in a small area with a tight frame that makes it look like there's a huge party. So she's probably saying, oh, there were tons of people there. There was so much commotion that no one would know what's going on. That's not how that works. Hello. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate all your support. You're awesome. Yeah, I mean, and that happens. That's how this works. So he's a big rock star at this point. He makes money. This money goes into different things, whether it's from the studio. I don't know if it's his own personal money or if it's from a record label that pays for these things behind the scenes. But usually what happens is you pitch, this is the song that I want to be a single. This is a song I want to be the single with the music video that we push an album with or push a tour with or whatever it is that you're promoting, right? And you pitch that to the studio or the record label, and then the record label pays the money, right? You're usually not the one that pays the money. The record label will usually pay the money, and then the record label gets paid back, and then profits get distributed. There's a lot of ways that these deals are made, but usually the record label is in charge of a lot of this stuff because they essentially own the artists. And that is how artists will get people that they are friends with paid, is they will get them to be the people that are in these music videos. So most likely she was his girlfriend. She's the actress. She's the main actress. The record label pays her a crap ton of money to be in the music video. So that makes sense. That's how you kind of hide money and give money to your friends in these situations. All right, let's continue. Sorry, I just went off on a tangent there.
Simulated sex was not real. In fact, I interviewed someone on my channel, on my YouTube channel. She was present in the room at the time that the simulated sex scene was filmed. She was actually one of the few people that were actually in the room itself when it was filmed. And she says that not only was the sex not real.
So right here, you see these 4 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So they make the lighting to where it looks like that's a packed room, and the lighting is on her right here. And there's probably only 12 people in that room. So to say that there was so much commotion and no one knew what was going on, I don't believe that.
Real, but that she talked to Evan a lot before and after, and Evan was not intoxicated at all, was not only coherent, but was very active in the planning of these scenes, was very enthusiastic about the scenes, and was cheerful before and after, and at no point did anyone seem uncomfortable, Vanessa says.
Well, I think everybody knew that it was very much, simulated, and both of them had underwear on. There was nothing that you saw with your eyes that to you, like they're having sex. Not at all. Did it appear that she was being pressured or coerced? No, not at all. They both were very, very much into it, and they would like converse with each other in between shots to see what they wanted to do next. And
yeah, I mean that's I believe all that. That's how this works. That's how I do very, very small budget work. I do mostly social media work. I will work for some local artist and some events. Anything that is planned like that, that is how that works. That is, I believe that wholeheartedly.
I was speaking to both of them, and there was jokes being made, like yelling across each other to set and everything like that.
Now, interestingly, Vanessa also was friends with Manson and with Evan Rachel Wood. She said she never saw any abuse, and she said Manson was never abusive to her or predatory toward her, nor did she notice it in his behavior with any other women. All right, and this was someone who was pretty close to Manson.
Familiar.
Leslie Lane, a former roommate of Marilyn Manson and Evan Rachel Wood's, who did an interview on my channel, and also she was on tour with Evan Rachel Wood and Manson. Evan also told her that she was enthusiastic about the music video Heart-Shaped Glasses and said nothing about it being an assault or that she was degraded or intoxicated or anything like that. Now, interestingly, Amy Berg, the director of Phoenix Rising, and Ilma Gore, Evan Rachel Wood's co-conspirator, who's currently being sued by Marilyn Manson.
Okay, I've heard this name a lot. I have no idea who Ilma Gore is, so this is one of the people I was interested in learning about, because I hear Evan Rachel Wood a lot. You hear that pretty much anytime anyone is talking about Manson, but I haven't heard too much about
both of them tried to recruit Vanessa, meaning that at one point these women had targeted Vanessa as someone who might be willing to turn on Manson. But Vanessa, never having had a bad experience with Manson, refused to cooperate.
Another woman on set that day.
That's amazing that she refuses to cooperate, because unfortunately a lot of people don't do that. That's good on her for doing that.
Verifies that Evan seemed fine, not upset, and did not do anything against her will.
Evan has lied about a number of things. She claims that Manson would not allow her to see her friends and family, that she was very much restricted and controlled and repressed by him. And yet, when she dated him, she was going all over the place, flying all over the place for various jobs and performances that she...
It's pretty odd. That sounds very familiar to someone else that we have talked about for the last 2 months. Yeah, how are you being restricted when you're doing whatever you want to do? That make sense, I guess.
He had also, there are pictures online of Manson taking her entire family, her and her family, to Disney World. There were articles written in the past that described a very warm relationship.
Seeing Manson at Disney World is just a sight. That's it. That's awesome.
Almost father-son-like between Evan's dad and Manson. And so again, the contradictory stuff is starting to build up here. Evan also claimed that Manson whipped her while she was sitting on a prayer kneeler and that it broke the prayer kneeler. And yet there are pictures online of that same prayer kneeler after the time in which Evan describes being assaulted and describes it breaking, and the prayer kneeler is not broken. So another little contradiction here. Another huge problem for Evan is that her ex-husband and the father of her child does not apparently believe her stories about Marilyn Manson. In court documents that were leaked to the Daily Mail, and you can find these online, Jamie Bell, Evan's ex-husband, says that her stories about Manson defy credibility. And in these court documents filed in family court, he essentially alleges that Evan Rachel Wood concocted these stories about Manson as a kind of a pretext for absconding with their child to Tennessee. In other words, she wanted to take their kid to...
That sounds about the person that you should believe, right? The person that was with her or is with her says that, yeah, that's not true. That didn't happen. I was with her for X amount of years. She never said any of this. That's someone that is credible. That is someone that, in general, you would take their account of what happened probably a little more seriously than some.
To Tennessee. Jamie didn't want that to happen, and Evan was using this Manson thing as an excuse. You know, Evan even claimed apparently that she had to get bulletproof glass because she was so afraid of Manson and so afraid for their son, and that Manson had threatened to, quote, her child and all of this. Now, you would think that Jamie Bell, the father of this child, he would be concerned if he thought that Manson were a bad guy, right? If someone is making those kinds of threats against my child, and the mother of my child was worried. But instead, what does he allege in the court documents? He alleges that it's BS. He says it defies...
Yeah, that's interesting. That's, yeah.
Credibility. He says something's fishy, something's up.
That's a lot.
And also,
That's a lot. I'm gonna F your child and come shoot you both. That's a lot. It's kind of one of those things where, why are you, at what point, especially if it is a takedown, why do you go to those lengths? Is it to get pity? Is it to get sympathy that your child is being attacked? I don't understand why you go to those lengths. It makes it not believable. Silent following the end. Yeah, that's what it's. I mean, that's what I imagine happened. Artists have to move on. It makes sense that, you know, he might be upset, but you have to move on. You still have music to make. You have videos to make. You have tours to go on. You have obligations from most things. I don't see him. I mean, in any of the time period, you would think someone of his stature, someone of his fame, if he was chasing her around the country, threatening to shoot her, it would have been a bigger deal. Because the first moment, if I am a human being, in the first moment someone texts or calls me and says, I'm going to track you down and shoot you, I can promise you I'm not going to run away and wait years to bring this up. I am going to call the cops and be like, hey, so-and-so just said they're going to come and shoot me. Can we get this taken care of? So why do you wait? Is it because he moved on and now you need that back? Like, why do you wait if you were actually thinking someone was going to track you down and shoot you? That you would think that if you were scared for your child's life, you would do everything in that one instance to figure out how to solve the problem immediately. I don't understand that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is there's no. It's just years of threats, right? It's just, hey, I'm gonna come do this to you. But if you really had those conversations, you figure that out immediately. You don't. If you're scared for your life, especially when you're separated from I get it if you're in the household, right? If you are in an abusive relationship and you're in the household and you're scared for your life, I would never tell someone, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you do this? Because that, unfortunately, that happens. That is real. But you've been separated. You're gone. And now you're getting threats saying, I'm going to track you down and shoot you. You're states away. And now he is coming back and saying, I'm going to come do this to you. You're already gone. You're separated. You're left. Why are you not trying to protect your kid in that moment? You're going to wait later until you orchestrate something. And that's what I really was trying to come into this unbiasedly, but it already seems like if this is true, if what Kurtz is documenting here, and we are all watching, if this is true, it's hard to believe any of that as a human being. Because to me, even if someone was one town away and they said, hey, I'm on your way to your house right now to shoot you, hey 911, yeah, this guy's coming to shoot me, can you come make sure this doesn't happen? Hey, you know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Anyways, let's just get back into this.
I just have to call out the hypocrisy of Evan Rachel Wood, who featured her son in the documentary Phoenix Rising, two-part documentary takedown of Marilyn Manson,
nice.
In which her son had multiple appearances and was a focal point throughout part 2. That is not the behavior of someone who is concerned about her son. Someone who is concerned.
Exactly. If you are concerned, you're not using your son as a prop unless you're using him for a prop to get the attention that you want for this situation. Because this is not, in my opinion, once you have a kid, that is your job, is to protect that kid. So if you're worried about this, you don't put your kid in front of the camera, in front of everyone doing these things. That's just not what you do. If you're a good person, I guess. That's not what you do if you're a reasonable and decent human being.
That her son might draw the attention of crazy Manson supporters or Marilyn Manson and be attacked because of that. So yet another inconsistency. Now, one of the most egregious things that Evan did, and this is in Marilyn Manson's lawsuit, you can see the actual letter, Evan and her
Oh, is this the FBI letter?
Co-conspirator Il McClure, nice. They typed up a fake FBI letter. They put a real FBI agent's name on there, but it was a fake letter alleging that Marilyn Manson was under investigation for these crimes and that Evan Rachel Wood was an essential witness. And she used this. She filed this fake FBI letter in family court as further.
See, I knew that she did this. I've seen this all over Twitter and whatnot, but I didn't know what she was trying to use the FBI letter for. I just knew that she faked or forged one. So that it's interesting to see the use of the FBI letter being in this manner. And yeah, this right here, exactly. If you're worried about something and you have a way to document the proof, you're going to document the proof, because if anything ever happens, it is your job to prove this happened, and it is the other person's job to prove that this didn't happen. And if you're the only one that recorded and you can prove, hey, this just happened to me, he did this to me, she did this to me, whatever, that's, I mean, right? Why wouldn't you? If you were actually worried, why wouldn't you? I don't know if that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know anything. That's kind of what this video is. This is my introduction to this case, so I don't know that happened. But if that does happen and that comes up in this video, I will talk about that, because that is interesting. I didn't know that. That will yeah, okay. So if that comes up in that, well, yeah, we'll talk about that, because that's
other evidence of why she needed to go to Tennessee with the child. But do you know what else she did with this fake FBI letter? And by the way, Manson's team verified with the FBI that it's fake. What else did Evan do?
So it's proven to be fake. I don't know how. I mean, they verified that it's fake. I don't know how you get in at that point right there. You've proven that this is fake and everything that this was used for. You have to imagine that anything that fake forged letter was used for is also fake. That's just, as a human and how deductive reasoning works, that's how my mind works. Does that make sense?
Do with this fake FBI letter? She and her co-conspirator Ilma Gore distributed it to the women that they tried to recruit to go after Manson.
Nice.
As a way of inducing the women to join with them, as if to say, look, don't worry, you can say bad things about this guy because then it made it that much easier for these women to join in with their lies, because they felt that they were taking a bad guy down. And when I say Evan recruited a lot of women, in order to explain, we need to talk about Ilma Gore, Evan Rachel Wood's co-conspirator. Ilma Gore, she is an habitual hoaxer. She has made up a lot of stories. She has ripped people off. I interviewed one of them on my channel.
So that's interesting. If she is a hoaxer already, once, I know you can't use past crimes and things they have done in the past to say, okay, they did it once, they're doing it again. But once you lose trust in that sort of setting, I don't know how you can't at least be a little pushed one way of how you're thinking, if that is the case. Because once a hoaxer, okay, you scam me once, how do I know you're not going to scam me this time? I'm going to err on the caution that you are scamming again. That's just, I think anyone that saw any of that would probably think that way.
She's also a gender activist, and so she and Evan Rachel Wood began to get close around about the time that Evan Rachel Wood began talking about her supposed abuse. Around about this time, Evan Rachel Wood began to work on the Phoenix Act, a bill that she co-wrote, ended up becoming law in California that would extend the statute of limitations on domestic violence. She did speeches, activist-type speeches on bisexuality and stuff like that, and became much more vocal about her bisexuality and about women's issues.
Familiar.
And she began talking about her abuse. Now, Ilma Gore, Evan's ex, is a major player in Phoenix Rising. She is the co-star of that documentary. So my theory is that when Evan got together with Ilma, there was a kind of a perfect storm in which Ilma helped to convince Evan that she could be a big gender activist and that she needed to talk about her abuse. And I'm not sure if the decision was made to go after Manson because he would make such an easy target since he has such a scary image, or if Evan Rachel Wood actually in her mind went back and misconstrued what happened between them.
So and she did say, she said, I'm speculating, this is my opinion on what happened. That does seem to be the case in a lot of situations. Is I want to be known for something, and it's very easy to get attention for being an activist. We already have a platform that we can use to push this. Why not become bigger activists, and that will be our claim to fame? I'm not saying that did happen, but she's right that very well could have happened. That doesn't seem unreasonable. I'm not going to say whether it did or didn't happen. I can't comment on that, but it's not unreasonable to think that I mean, it's either that or the opposite, and they're doing this because they actually care and they're 100% telling the truth. So it's hard to say one way or another, but it's easier to lean towards one side on that. And so if this does make it to court, it'll be interesting to see a lot of these facts come out.
As abuse. I do think that Evan Rachel Wood's motives are extremely complicated. I think that, like Amber Heard, she suffers from borderline personality disorder and rewrites her past. And I think it's possible that she's rewritten in her mind her past with Marilyn Manson and now blames him for the person that she used to be, which is very different from the bisexual activist with a girlfriend that she was at the time that she was with Ilma Gore. We do get some clues as to why
that happens so much. Is I regret what I did. I am ashamed of my past. How can I rewrite this? This is how. I could very well see that happening. I mean, you see that happen with people from your hometown, right? Like you see them years later, and you're like, oh, I knew you growing up. That's not how you were at all. You can rewrite yourself, and unfortunately some people, when they choose to rewrite themselves, they have to make excuses or whatever about their past. And I if she went from crazy drug rock star fueled partying with musicians to I'm a bisexual activist against abuse, what do you do when people start digging up your history? Well, you were with this person and you did all these things, and now, potentially these things happened. How can you say you're this when you used to be that? And I'm only this now because I went through this in this time period. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how it is. I am only doing this now, and I feel this way now, and I am this now because I was abused here. I wasn't actually these things. I was being coerced into doing this. Essentially, you just killed off your old self and recreated your new you. So I could see that. I could very well see that.
Evan might be mixed up in the documentary Phoenix Rising itself. In fact, one of the strangest aspects of the documentary, in my opinion, is that it spends the first 25 minutes establishing the idea that Evan Rachel Wood is psychologically disturbed. It talks about her upbringing with what is clearly a narcissistic father, parents who don't get along, a scary environment with lots of yelling and the threat of violence, and also that from the earliest age, her father, who was the director of a local theater company, immersed Evan in a world of make-believe that was so powerful that her brother implies in Phoenix Rising that it was kind of hard for her to turn that off when needed. Anyway, we know what Ilma Gore's motives were because one of the things that Marilyn Manson's lawsuit includes.
That would be interesting to see her being forced to talk about, especially in a court of law, and have people come in and discuss that on behalf of her and against her for those situations. Because if that is true, when you're in abusive situations like that, it is very common that people do create fantasies and they live in a world that they create, and sometimes that doesn't go away. You stop living in reality because you're making a new reality for what you're actually going through. People do grow up, they do escape those, but though that feeling, that idea that when something you feel to be not right, potentially abusive, not right, you don't like it, it's very easy to rewire those thoughts into saying, this is what actually happened. This is the reality of what I believe happened and what happened, even if it's not. So it would be interesting to see that be talked about, especially from family members. I think that would be pretty damning if that's all true. I mean, I don't know if it is or not,
a note from Ilma Gore in which she writes about her motivations for getting involved with the Phoenix Act, and one of them is to make money. Let's not forget that Evan and Ilma got a huge documentary out of this that made them look absolutely heroic. In fact, we know now that Evan approached Amy Berg about making this documentary, and at first it was just going to be a documentary about the Phoenix Act, right? Because Evan had not named her abuser yet. She testified before the California Assembly, and she testified before Congress, but she did not name her abuser. It was not until 2021, on the same same date that all of the other accusers posted their allegations to their Instagram, that Evan finally named Marilyn Manson.
Nice. Okay, so that's what you were saying. They all came out at the same time, same day or same week. Yeah, that doesn't usually happen. I don't know how that's not orchestrated. You just all connected through abuse. You just all have that twin connection. That doesn't happen.
So what happened is she had approached Amy Berg several years ago wanting to do a documentary based on her work as a gender activist, and Amy had shown some interest, but it's clear if you read between the lines of what Amy Berg has said, it really didn't come on board fully and really get excited about this project until Marilyn Manson was named and became the subject of it. So after
I mean, that makes sense. As a producer, it's like, okay, we have Evan Rachel Wood. She's I don't actually know who she is outside of all of this. I assume she's probably not quite A-list. I don't know if I would be correct in assuming that. I think for a while, if I remember right, she was kind of famous, but outside of that, that wasn't enough to make that documentary be something that made enough money for a studio to want to do. And then you name Marilyn Manson. It's the same thing with the ACLU. This article is great, but how can we make this seem like it's about JD, you know? So as soon as she said that, that's where it went from, okay, well, this is an okay documentary, to, oh yeah, I would very much so like to produce this now that you have used his name, because now we can get tons of attention. Yeah, that's what I imagined. It does look like she had some work, but it never looked like she was super famous. So that's what I was saying, is she's not a household name. That's not enough to get a documentary placed somewhere and do the numbers that you would want it to do. But now you take that and say, hey, this actress who is known was abused by Marilyn Manson, and we're going to use that to prop this up above everything. It makes sense. It makes sense why you wouldn't want to produce that, or at least put the effort in until you'd name him. So it's odd, it's sleazy, but that's exactly what it is. It's you get attention for activism by using someone else and tearing them down, and that it's terrible. That shouldn't happen, in my opinion. I mean, if it's true, if all this stuff is true, you have documented proof. By all means, do whatever you need to do to drag people. Get whatever you need out of it, if this stuff is true. If it's not true and you're making this up for performative activism, you're garbage, and you should absolutely be prosecuted in the same way that you are trying to prosecute the person that you are dragging with fake allegations. It's not good. That's not good. I don't know how to say that outside of, it just makes me so mad that I lose words to say that's not good, right?
Evan and Ilma got together, and Evan began some of this activism. They began recruiting women to go after Marilyn Manson. Now, they got a lot of information from a woman named Ashley Walters. Ashley Walters is one of the women who sued Manson. She's alleged sexual harassment and sexual coercion. She is a disgruntled ex-employee. She was fired by Manson twice. He fired her once, then took her back, had compassion on her, and then fired her again. She basically stole his car, went on a joyride, a drunken joyride, wrecked the car, totaled his car, this Jaguar, and got a DUI for it.
Yeah, that's someone we're gonna trust.
Where she admits all of this in her lawsuit, by the way. So this is the kind of woman we're talking about. Ashley Walters.
Yeah, exactly.
This woman worked for him. She was his personal assistant for years, and so she had all of his contact information, okay? And what she did is she gave all the information that she had. She gave this to Evan and Ilma. And so from this, they got the information to contact previous lovers of Marilyn Manson and see if they could recruit them. Now, one of those previous lovers who was contacted was a woman named Greta Aurora. She came forward over a year ago and showed us the emails that she received from Ilma Gore, speaking on behalf of Evan Rachel Wood, trying to recruit Greta Aurora. Now, Greta Aurora had basically...
So that right there, if that all is true, garbage is the right words to say. Yeah, I mean, garbage is that's about the only word. It's just absolute human garbage. But anyways, if that's all true, and they actually have traceable emails back to this saying, hey, this is what we're doing, we would love you to join us, that's going to look very bad in court. That's not going to look good. I mean, none of this, if all of this is true and can be proven true, none of this is going to look good. But that right there, having a authenticated email chain trying to get people to orchestrate an attack on someone, that's going to look pretty good, and good for Manson, terrible for them. And I assume that's why these suits are coming out, is because this is evidence. This is potential evidence, right? It's evidence that has not been admitted, right? So if they can get this into a court of law, it makes sense that you would sue them for these things because you have the proof. You're not going to go countersue for something that isn't true, because if you actually did abuse these people and it comes out in a court of law and you sued, but then they have all the proof that you did this stuff, that's not good. That's absolutely not good for yourself. But that makes sense why he is suing if all of these things are out there in the world as evidence. And yeah, this right here, it's not just celebrities, it's everybody. It's politicians, it's social media influencers, it is mainstream media is turning and pushing stories of these things. So it's not just celebrities, it is everybody in the woke culture, so to speak. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's not just celebrities, and that is the issue, is that they are pushing this type of activism, this type of thought process of believe all women, believe whatever it is. They use every avenue available to push it. So yes, celebrities do get it, but it is the media, it's these journalists, it's social media influencers, it's politicians. I mean, how many politicians are on TV nowadays? That's not what your job is as a politician. Why are you acting in these performative activities? Like, it is all, what is the word that I'm looking for? Virtue signaling. It's all just pretending to believe in this to get attention. And unfortunately, it's not just, if it was just celebrities, that's one thing, right? But it seems like every avenue of media, this is being pushed from. So that's where it's really bad. I don't know how we got here. I don't know how we got here, and I don't know where does this go from here. Is everybody that people don't like, is this going to happen to every single person until the only people left are people that pretend to believe in these things? Like, how did we get here to this point? And this is the norm. This is the norm. I mean, this is what people talk about. This has been all over social media, all over the news. This is the type of stuff that is flooding everybody's brains instead of, hey, let's all be better people. You know, why can't we just be better people?
Equivalent of a kind of a weekend fling in which, as a 19-year-old girl, she had lost her virginity to Marilyn Manson. She says it was a happy memory, a good memory, and she says that he was kind and a gentleman and not at all predatory, that she actually had to be the aggressor in the situation to make it happen.
He was constantly asking if I was okay.
Well, Ilma Gore contacted her, trying to get her to join up with these women. Contacted her twice, but she didn't do that. Now, I've learned that the recruitment process was a fairly extensive thing. Once these women would reply and would show interest in joining in, then they would participate in these Zoom meetings. And again, don't forget the FBI letter, right? They're told, hey, look, he's already been investigated by the FBI. All right, now you know human nature. You know that when people have a chip on their shoulder, perhaps about not being chosen to be Mrs. Marilyn Manson, or being dumped or whatever, and when people's careers are basically coming to the end of the line because they're aging out of Hollywood or they haven't really had much of any success, and when they are offered to participate in something that gets them a lot of media attention, that gets them cover of People magazine, photo spreads in Rolling Stone, Good Morning America interviews, interviews on The View that much of these women have gotten, come on, all right? For a number of these women who are promoting these appearances and these photos.
That's the issue, is they come out with the documentary, they name him as the abuser, and they get propelled into a spotlight that is only talking about that thing. You get pigeonholed into the only thing that you are known for now is being abused by Marilyn Manson. And so that narrative just gets spread over and over and over. I mean, this is ABC, The View, right? Why would a company like ABC, one of the major news outlets, why would they have allegations being pushed on before there's any information anywhere? That's not a healthy environment at all for people. Why? I mean, it makes sense. Okay, 2 years go by and you have a court case and things are brought to light. You then have them on there and they can talk about that. But why are you pushing this narrative to the people, the masses? You get, hundreds of thousands of views. You are now pushing one side of a narrative with no facts. And that's what you're supposed to be, is news. You're supposed to be journalists. How are you being a journalist? How are you being a news station that reports on the facts when you are not verifying anything? I don't understand. I don't understand how it comes to this.
Spreads like their IMDb credits on their Instagram pages and stuff. It's very obvious what's going on here. Evan Rachel Wood's motivations, hers are more complicated, and I've talked a bit about those, but these women, it's not complicated at all. It's a Hail Mary pass on their dwindling to non-existent careers.
And this recruitment process was very intentional in the sense that the women were given guidance by Ilma and Evan as to what to claim. They were even given a checklist of behaviors to claims, which is one of
That's interesting. Does anyone know? Yeah, I mean, it's not just, I mean, it's every woke culture right now, or every idea behind, it's not just, it is very feminist, but it's not just about women. It is about anything that they can virtue signal with. I mean, unfortunately, it's all politics, and that's what it is. And yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. I was saying yesterday is independent journalism, like what Colonel Kurtz is doing. This is the only way forward. This is absolutely the only way forward. Sorry, but yeah, I wondered. Has anyone seen? Are there more copies of this of some of the other women? Like, do they all match exactly? Does every single one have the exact same check marks, or are they switched around to make it at least seem believable?
One of the pieces of evidence included in Marilyn Manson's lawsuit.
And let's not forget that a number of these accusers, long after their abuse had supposedly happened, for years after, were going to Marilyn Manson concerts and posting about it happily on social media. Evan Rachel Wood, as late as 2014, was referring warmly to Marilyn Manson on social media. When Marilyn Manson's parents died, Evan Rachel Wood wished him condolences in 2014 to her friend. Now, this woman, Greta Aurora, that they tried to recruit, what happened is Manson's ex-assistant Ashley Walters went ahead and lied about her in the lawsuit and basically made it seem that Greta Aurora had been violated by Manson, the complete opposite of her experience. And so they lied about her in a lawsuit. And then
And that's bad. I mean, speaking on behalf of someone else and having that documented, and then the person themselves that was spoken for comes out and says, that's not what I said, they just lied about that. That's one of those things that comes out and it's like, oh yeah, that was rebutted from, straight from the horse's mouth. So that's in the term of making things believable for when this ultimately does go to court. That is not how you do that. That is not whatsoever how you do that. I mean, if you were smart, I know these people are obviously not as smart as they think they are. If you were smart, you would not leave a trail that can be rebutted. That's just why. I mean, so why would you speak on behalf of someone else, knowing that you're lying about what they said and knowing that they're going to see that? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Who else was lied about is a woman named Paula Vice. Now, Paula Vice was an ex-girlfriend of Marilyn Manson, also a model in his music video, and in a guerrilla-style video that he did called Groupie, where Paula, who was in her 20s, and she was paid, she played the part of a young fan who is abused by Marilyn Manson. Two of the lawsuits against Marilyn Manson, they describe this film as almost a kind of a snuff film. They say it was a young fan. They imply that she's underage, that she was somehow harmed or perhaps even killed or killed herself as a result of this film. None of which is true, and they know it's not true. I interviewed the woman on my channel. She said,
why, this literally just goes back to what I was just saying. Why would you speak on this knowing that this person is not dead, that this person is still very much so alive, and most likely will rebut everything you are saying because what you're saying is a lie, and you're talking about her? Why would you think that this girl is just going to let you lie on her name, especially in these pretenses? I don't, this is where I just get so confused of, if this is all true, how does anyone believe this? Like, how does anyone believe what they're saying if just these few things that have been, yeah, exactly, it is. It absolutely is how do you believe anything else that they say when the main things that they try to say are very much so easily proven false? Yeah, I mean, that's I think that is what it is they don't think anyone is going to come back and say anything, because if you do, you're a misogynist, or you're, whatever it is, yeah, I mean, yeah, true. I mean, it's hard to generalize all feminists. I know you said that a couple times. You cannot generalize all feminists, because feminist is such a broad term. And this is something, I'm going to stop here for a second. This is something that I urge in a lot of my videos. My tagline is always venture deeper. It's venture first. In order to venture first, or in order to venture deeper, one must venture first. You cannot look at things as, but I appreciate you being here, but no, all feminists are not the same. Feminist is such a broad term, and I would like you to think about what you're saying, and if you actually believe this, you have to look deeper than what is on the face. These people consider themselves feminists. Yes, these are bad people. I would also consider myself a borderline feminist, because I care about women, I care about their rights, I care about the treatment of everybody. That doesn't mean that I believe these people. So I urge you to do some research and talk to people that you think are actually feminists. But I know you're trolling at this point. Then you hate men. I am a man, and I can tell you that I don't hate myself. I don't hate my dad. I don't hate my brothers. I don't hate many men. Most of my favorite artists are men. So you are wrong. You're just wrong. So that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's how you interpret it, and like I said, but it's just such a broad spectrum. The term feminist doesn't mean you hate men. It just means that you care about women, and how you go about doing that is up to you. But that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that. So. Yeah. Anyways, I'll jump back into this. I do urge you, City Crusher, to do some more looking and talking to people. Don't get stuck in such a bubble that you believe that, because hatred ultimately does spread easier than positivity. So if you, I'm spreading a false narrative. Okay, but, hatred, yeah, I'm going to. He's gone. And that right there is people that get stuck in a bubble. It is so much easier to be hateful than it is to actually think about things at a surface level, because there are so many things absolutely that just get my blood boiling, right? And this is an example of that. And I tried, you try to have a civil conversation, you try to figure it out. The whole point of what I am and what I do is looking deeper than what is on the face value. And if you're not willing to do that, then at least listen to people that are, because there are opinions, there are facts out there that are not just it's easy to say, okay, a feminist is this, and then there's 50 different tree branches that come off of this. And yes, I identify with some of these that I identify more as a feminist than I would not. Right? There's every topic can be absolutely dug down into so much of a deeper meaning that it is not worth looking at things with such a tunnel visioned outlook. That's just how I try to look at the world. And if I do strongly believe something and I state an opinion like that, if someone comes back politely and says, hey, have you thought about it this way? I look at it, and if I haven't, I go, no, I haven't. That does change my perspective, or it doesn't change my perspective. But if you're not willing to look into something deeper and you want to just be stuck on that one thought, generally that's not, in my opinion, that is not the right way to look at information. I mean, everyone is free to do what they want to do, obviously, but that is not how you look at information if you want to get down to the deepest meaning of things. Yeah, we are absolutely getting sidetracked, and that's what the thing about lives are, is it's really easy to get sidetracked. Okay, so I assume that this is your burner account, so I am gonna get rid of you too. Yeah, I censor them. No, you're spamming a chat, and being mean. So just gonna get rid of you. I don't have any mods, so I'm doing this myself. And I don't know if Colonel Kurtz is in the chat. If she is, she probably would respond. But you can also slow down the chat. Yeah, I have no idea either. I wonder if you have to do that on YouTube, because I don't know how to do that. Yeah, I have no idea how to do that. So that'll be something that I'll be doing on the next one. I'll figure that out. But sorry about that. We will. Oh, I'm gonna have to show someone else to get that out. Okay, we're gonna continue. But yeah, that's just how I feel about those sort of things. There's no reason to come and yell at people and tell them that they're wrong when you haven't heard anybody else's side of things and how they think. So how can you come here and spread hate when you don't know anything about anyone or anything? So yeah, that's what that is one thing that I will probably do. I didn't do it on this one because I only have 1,500 or so subscribers, so I did not want to I didn't want to do that and exclude anyone, because in how I feel is if I haven't done enough to have people as a subscriber yet, hopefully me being here and chatting one-on-one with everybody will earn that. So I didn't want to do subscriber mode only and force people to subscribe when they might not actually care about me or what I have to say. So if any of you guys are subscribed, I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here. But I didn't want to force people. At some point, if I do grow, I will probably have to get to that point. But until I can earn people's, earn the right to have people to subscribe to me, I'm not going to do that. But come on. Okay, he's gone too. Anyways, we're going to continue here.
That as much. Now, she also dated Marilyn Manson. She was his girlfriend. And she says that contrary to these allegations, he was very sweet, that when it came to women, he was actually a chump, and that he was not into kinky sex, and that he is not as he's being portrayed by these women.
During this period when you were in a relationship with him, was he ever abusive to you physically, emotionally, sexually?
Never, not even close to it. He's a really, really sweet guy.
Now, Chloe Black is an excellent example of someone who's clearly motivated by career and money incentives. The same.
And I like seeing things like that. Like she just said, he's a really sweet guy. And you have to take everybody's account of people into consideration. While she might think he's a really sweet guy and they got along great, there could be another situation where he wasn't a sweet guy and they did not get along at all. And you kind of have to weed out how you think about people, but it does seem like most of the people speaking outside of the hateful people that are involved in this seem to say the same thing. So it's easier to believe one way, over the other.
Same time that she posted her allegations on Instagram about Marilyn Manson supposedly harassing and assaulting her, she also released her new song about her supposed sexual assault. So she had the release of this music, which has an assault theme, synchronized with the publication of her Instagram allegations against Manson. And look, let's not forget that hers and the 3 other lawsuits against Marilyn Manson, all 4 women suing him claimed repressed memory. Because look, they had to get around the statute of limitations thing. They're suing him for a lot of money, but there's a statute of limitations with that. And they're exceeding it. They said it took them like 7 years or whatever to realize they'd been abused. Well, they're claiming repressed memory, which means that what they're saying is that all 4 of them were abused in their 20s as grown women, and then they completely forgot about it, and it didn't come back until Evan Rachel Wood started talking about her abuser, and then that triggered these memories for them. That's basically what they are saying. Now, the idea of repressed memory...
So that's what you guys were saying. Yeah, that doesn't happen. That it may happen. If he abused 4 people, 8 people, one of those may have repressed memories. You don't all come out with the same... I mean, I don't know how you hear that and say everyone had the exact same repressed memory for years and all remembered on the same day. That does not happen. I don't know how you see that, and I don't know how a news outlet would see that and say, sure, come on our show and talk about that, because that is, I don't know how that doesn't, as someone who logically tries to think about things, I don't know how you hear that and you say, yeah, that makes sense. That's reasonable, because it's not. And do they have, do they all have? Yeah, that's kind of how that's kind of how I feel. Someone said, put on your waders, and I'm not necessarily sick about it. It makes my stomach just clench, because it's just so... It's ridiculous. Like, it really is ridiculous. And it's the same thing with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. Is so many of these things are so disgusting and ridiculous that it just makes you mad that people just go along with this without fact-checking anything. And I get it. It's hard to fact-check. But it is sickening. Like, how do you look at this and say, okay, yeah, 4 people had repressed memories about the exact same thing from the same person from the same time period, and they all remembered on the exact same day? For those things to happen, you're better. I guarantee you have a better chance of winning the lottery than that happening. So I don't know how you see that. I absolutely do not see how you see that and say that definitely happened. I'm gonna push that narrative. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, I actually have seen some stuff about repressed memories, just from like the psychology standpoint behind it. And I think a lot of repressed memories aren't necessarily repressed memories. It's just that you remember things differently, and the way that you remember things aren't always correct. So something might have happened 10 years ago that you completely forgot about, and you could be doing something and you go, oh wow, that happened. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a repressed memory. It just means that you forgot that it happened and you remembered it later. I have seen a lot of things about them not necessarily being completely like that those studies not being completely accurate on what a repressed memory actually is. Yeah, exactly. How does any expert witness that is treated, if repressed memories are absolutely a thing, and there is, I guarantee it, a psychologist or psychiatrist, I'm not exactly sure which, that has dealt with repressed memories for their entire career, and they say, yeah, these 4 people said this, they're going to look at that and say, nope, that didn't happen. And that's it, right? So I don't know how that's going to fly anywhere. I absolutely don't.
memory is considered to be very non-credible by a number of experts, although it may happen some in childhood. But look, no, you're not going to have a situation where 4 women are all going to repress the behavior of one man and then it suddenly comes back to them all at the same time when it's convenient for them to file lawsuits. No. Clearly, no. Marilyn Manson is not some kind of master hypnotist, all right? Now, one of the others claiming repressed memory, and she was suing Manson for $10 million, is Esme Bianco, former Game of Thrones star, fetish model, and did bondage shows, and all of that stuff, right? But of course, she claims that Marilyn Manson was forcing unwanted kink on her. Yeah, she's not the only one who had this history of doing like bondage and fetish stuff before Manson. I mean, Sarah McNeely, she did this bondage show with back suspension, extreme suspension, where they actually put holes in your back in order to do this, and then hooks go through the holes, and you're suspended, and people go to these shows, and that's fine, whatever people want to do. Yeah. But don't claim innocence then. So look, I knew when I saw and read Esme's interviews that she was...
That... You could be whatever you want to be. You can be into anything you want to be into. That's a bit much for me. It's a lot. The stuff you see in movies, that is seeing hooks through people's back and being hung up suspended. That is not for me. I'll tell you what.
Was full of BS. This is how her story doesn't make sense. She claims that the first time she was abused by Marilyn Manson, that he invited her to shoot a music video with him, that he's going to shoot guerrilla style, and that he told her, you know, she was a bondage model, you know, she had done bondage shows. He had told her that he was going to have to manhandle her a little bit. The title of the video was "I Want to Kill You Like They Kill You in the Movies," and he told her that the climactic scene was going to be one where she would be his slave and she would be manhandled, and then he told her basically that it was going to be rough. All right, so she goes over to his house with that knowledge, and she spends the whole weekend there, and the whole weekend there she acknowledges that nothing happened, and then she said, you know, he didn't even try to have sex with her, right? That's what level of a predator we're talking about, is that he spent a whole weekend with this beautiful woman and he did not try to anything sexual with her. And then there's the climactic.
That's it's how it should be, right? You can coexist with people without trying to have sex with them. That's how it should be. Good on him.
Moment, as he said, where he puts her on the prayer kneeler. According to her interviews, he puts her on the prayer kneeler, ties her to this prayer kneeler, and then while filming it starts whipping her. Now, she admits that after this she sent a text message to him basically indicating that she had had fun and she had enjoyed it. Understand, Manson, everything had gone exactly as he had warned her, and now she's claiming that it was abuse when in fact it was doing exactly what he said was going to happen in this video. Now, Bianco showed this picture to Good Morning America of her back, and she claims that these are whip marks. I and many others dispute that. To me and to many others, and I've looked at pictures online of what whip...
Yeah, that looks more like a rope burn to me. That right there, that looks like a... Yeah, that looks more... I mean, I'm not going to say whether it is or not. I'm not a doctor, but it looks more like a woven rope was burned in and dug into the skin more than it does the tip of a whip. Those are usually more like laceration type cuts. If I remember what I'm thinking correctly. So.
And many others dispute that. To me and to many others, and I've looked at pictures online of what whip abrasions or whip marks look like, they don't look like this. This looks like the indentation that a rope makes when someone is tied up, and perhaps tied up a little too tightly or for too long. And Esme Bianco has a history of doing different bondage and fetish shows, and even posting pictures from being tied up on Game of Thrones with bruises and stuff on her back. So this is totally non-credible to me. Also, the head is cut off. We don't even know if it's Esme we're looking at. And by the...
That is true, because I did see one of the things that I did see was like the fake, and this was before I knew anything about this case, and I laughed about it back then. The girl that posted fake like bite marks or something, and then someone pulled up and it was a stock photo. I had to laugh about that because that's something that, again, when you go to court, when you do these things get authenticated. And the fact that a social media user put that out, it had me rolling. And that was before I knew anything about this case. So that's funny.
By the way, there are pictures taken of her back later on that show an absolutely pristine back, not a scar, if someone had been badly whipped like that, as she claims. Now, what's also interesting about this story...
That kind of reminds me of, the bruise, and then the next day you didn't have a bruise. If they were that bad, those scars those cuts stay for days, weeks. You know, that's not something that just goes away.
Story of being whipped on a prayer kneeler by a Nazi whip is that Esme Bianco came out with this claim in 2021 when she did interviews, all right? She claims that this happened to her. Well, if you watch Phoenix Rising, the documentary, guess what? Evan Rachel Wood claims this exact thing happened to her. Nice. Evan makes this claim. She says that he tied her up and that he beat her on the prayer kneeler with the Nazi whip. So basically what happened is that Esme Bianco stole this story from Evan. Now let's talk about some of the other accusers. Ashley Morgan Smithline, she posted stock photos from Pinterest of sex bites, and she posted them and tried to pass them off as her own photos of her own abuse by Marilyn Manson. Only problem was some sharp-eyed follower noticed this and...
Yeah, this is hilarious. And besides that, I don't know, those look more like hickeys and scratches to me, but how do you go to the lengths of posting a stock photo? You have to understand that is going to be authenticated, right? Like you would think if you did enough research to orchestrate something of this magnitude that you would be smart enough to realize that this is probably going to be fought back against. Why would you not try to figure out something? I'm not giving anyone ideas. If you're going to go do this, don't take this advice. This is not advice on how to get away with this. But why would you not figure out a way that you could authenticate actual injuries and not use a stock photo? Because you just do a reverse lookup on Google and find that pretty quickly.
Pointed it out, and so she took the photos down.
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
Ashley Smithline's ex-fiance, Tom Bibian, whom she dated for a couple of months after she dated Manson, he has been very adamant and continues to be. He just published text messages from her the other day. Continues to be adamant that she was lying about this, and that when they were together, she never described any kind of this crazy abuse that she's alleged in her lawsuit or in her People magazine interview or her View interview or any of this.
I think Ashley is what's known as a star fucker. I think she suffers from borderline personality disorder.
Oh, by the way, Ashley Smithline, she also alleges these severe injuries like a broken nose that she got from Manson, and then she had to carry all the way to Thailand on a plane, you know, with her broken nose. She like Amber Heard, claims these horrific injuries and has no medical records. No one has shown.
Yeah, and that's where you get lost in medical injuries when you don't have medical records, because even if I didn't think that I was going to accuse someone of doing these things, if I broke my pinky, or if I broke my nose, or someone broke my pinky, or someone broke my nose just the same, I'm going to go get that taken care of. You don't just let injuries go, right? I mean, you can, but you're going to be permanently messed up from it. Most normal people go get injuries taken care of, or there's actual discussion to other people that you know about said injuries. How is there none of that? You know, it just doesn't make sense.
In medical records in this either. It was also Ashley Smithline, by the way, who admitted that all of the accusers wrote their statements together. That's why they sound alike. Look, when all of these statements came out, again, this is coordinated, people, okay? They coordinated together. When all of the statements came out on the same day on these different women's Instagram pages, I said right then, these look ghost-written to me. They look like they were all written by the same person. And so she admitted it. Ashley Smithline got into a heated argument with a Manson supporter, and she admitted that they wrote their statements together. Now, look, it is important for you to know that a number of women that Manson dated and that he...
If that's true and they can actually track that down and show, hey, we wrote these together, that's another huge piece of evidence that it just destroys all credibility. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense that even if, like I said, even say he punched her in the nose, broke her nose, whatever, these things actually happened, and you still left, you decided that it wasn't a big enough deal to press charges with and, you know, create these allegations at this time, you still go get those injuries taken care of, right? In theory, I mean, some people probably wouldn't. In theory, you would go get these taken care of. How do you not and then claim these things happened with no proof? At that point, even if they did, and that's kind of the thing, is like, even if they did happen, if you're going to take it to these lengths and someone tells you to prove that it happened, you have to be able to prove that it happened. So why would you not do that. You know, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean that's usually what liars do, is they talk, and they talk and they talk, and in her mind, she was probably thinking, you know, it'll make him look worse if I tell them. He knows how not to get caught. He knows that I show my face, so he beats me in the body. But when liars want to exaggerate, they just start making stuff up, and that's where it's easy to just say, he broke my nose. It's just such an easy thing to go for, because that when you think of facial injuries, you think of black eyes and broken noses. And so I assume, I would absolutely have to assume that that's what happened, is she was just talking. She knew that she was getting attention for talking, and that's what came out. Yeah, and that's what it is. She talked herself right into a lie. That's what people that lie do. When you tell a story, there's two things that you do. You either have a script and you tell the story, or you tell the story and you try to recount it, and then as you're telling the story, you try to say, oh, that's a good point, I'm going to go down this train. But sometimes when you take this point and you go this way, you don't know what you're saying. You're just talking to further the point, and it usually comes out as a jumbled up mess of a lie. And that's why I was scared to live stream, is I generally have no idea what I'm going to say, because I didn't really, outside of watching this video, I have nothing planned. So you never know where you're going to go when you're talking, and that is usually how liars, and when they're telling a story, that's usually how that works, is they just talk and talk and talk until they get their story out, and usually within them is filled with lies. Yeah, and that's the thing, is if you were being honest and you were telling a story, and I say story lightly, if you're telling a reenactment of what happens, you tell the reenactments of what happened. You're not trying to add or embellish if you're telling the accounts from that story. You don't. That's how it works, right? I mean, you don't just keep talking and adding points and making stuff up, because that's how you get caught in a lie. It's not that you don't have any contradictions, because sometimes, I mean, it is that you don't have contradictions, but it's that you should have a point to the story that you're telling. You should know the details of the story that you're telling if it is truthful, because if it's not, you just talk, like I said, and you get into a big old loop. I mean, that's it. I would just do it. I have wanted to do YouTube for a long time. I didn't really know how I wanted to do YouTube. I make videos for other people, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. And I never really wanted to do anything for myself, because it's hard to do it professionally and then just make these stupid little videos that I'm not really putting any production time into. And why would anybody care what I have to say anyways, is kind of how I felt. But once I started realizing that I could talk on camera, it's just kind of a fun hobby. It's a nice break. If you want to do it, I would just say do it. Make 50 videos. If you don't put any out, you don't put any out. But what I have found is, I think that now, knowing what I know, now being here, even with the very small audience that I have captivated, is if I would have known that I would have had any sort of subscribers, anyone that ever would have thought that I had something worth saying, if I would know that and I didn't do that, and I know that I could have, I would always regret it, right? So if it is something that you want to do, just try it. Whether or not you actually go anywhere with it is one thing, but if you try it and it's not for you, it's not for you. If you try it and turns out it's amazing and you love it, then where's the harm in doing it, right? So that's kind of how I feel. That's how I feel about a lot of things, is if you want to do something, try it. Just try it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But if you do, you are living life. It's what's the point of living life if you're not trying new things, right? If you get stuck in the same bubble, like I said, you generally just start to hate things. So just do it. Yeah, no, I mean, you could do 20% and just start posting things, really. I mean, you could literally post whatever you want. You could get a webcam, hook it up to OBS or whatever it is, and just talk right into your computer. The files get recorded right to your computer. It's super easy. It is not something that you have to be a producer to figure out. YouTube has been super cool. I would just say, if you do want to do YouTube, make sure you don't, how would I say this, box yourself in. Like right now, I think a lot of people follow me for some of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff. And I don't ever want to be boxed into only doing that, and that's why I'm branching out. That's why eventually I do want to talk about more of just, critical thinking and logically thinking about certain pop culture events or political events or just things that are happening in the world. So don't make it to where you can only talk about one thing unless you only want to talk about one thing, is what I would say.
He had sexual relationships with support him. I've already told you about Me Too. Rose McGowan was the one who took down Harvey Weinstein. And guess what Rose McGowan said in her statement and in her memoirs? She said that she never experienced abuse from Marilyn Manson. And she said in her memoirs that they had this very nice, sweet, almost kind of like a simple domestic life together. He was not abusive, and he was not this guy who was all into this weird kinky sex or anything, right? Now, people will say, well, yeah, but she did say that she supports Manson's accusers. Of course she has to, but she said it clearly enough. I did not experience abuse with him. Same with Dita Von Teese, his ex-wife. She did not experience abuse either. She said that in her statement. Lisa Lesueur, a woman that he dated early on when he was younger in Florida, she went on my show and said that she did not recognize the man they're describing, that he was very sweet.
Do any of these allegations resonate with what you personally experienced with Manson?
No, that is not the Manson that I knew. That I never saw him ever getting mad or angry or violent in any way.
I'll tell you something else. I was contacted by a...
See, and that's where earlier I said if one person says he's sweet, one person doesn't like him, you have to take those things with a grain of salt and figure out where that middle ground is. If you have 20 people saying he's sweet, nice, domestic, very normal outside of his personality, and you have 4 to 8 people that are alleging the exact same things orchestrated in one timeline, it's pretty easy to believe one side over the other. So it's good that I do like the fact that she brought more people in to say those same things earlier, because when I just hear one person, I think, okay, that could be one experience, but if multiple people continue to have those experiences, and that is just about everybody's experience, it's much easier for me to believe that that's probably how he is.
A reporter for The Sun a year or so ago, and she told me that a friend of hers had dated Marilyn Manson, and that friend said that he was a nice guy and he wasn't abusive. But this reporter just kind of shrugged it off and said, I guess he's complicated or whatever. But even the Sun reporter was hearing this stuff. Also, remember, I have talked to 2 former personal assistants of Marilyn Manson. These were people who lived with Manson, all right? One of them, Paula, you can see her interview. She was with him for years. She was with him when he was...
I saw her interview with the Thanksgiving dinner at the Eastern Columbia building. She seems very legit compared to just about anyone else that I've seen.
With Evan and when he was with Gabriella. And she says that he was not abusive.
I'm not someone who would ever tolerate physical violence against anyone, especially a woman. I called the cops on my own dad. Like, I have no loyalty to that kind of behavior. And I've never witnessed it happening from him.
She says that Evan was unstable, and also she debunks Gabriella's story, and she says that when Gabriella claims that when she was driven to suicide by Manson's abuse, that she had to go into a psychiatric hold over Christmas, well, Paula dug up some text in which she was texting Paula and asking, how's Manson doing, and I'd like to talk to him, clearly contradicting the idea that she's in a psychiatric hold where she wouldn't be able to text and she wouldn't be sending these sort of happy messages, right? And by the way, Gabriella deleted...
Is that true? Or I don't know if you are in a psych ward, do they just or psych hold? I don't know if that's a word. Do they just take everything? Do they take all your communications and things like that? That would be something that I would be interested in learning more about, because was she just at a facility and she called it a psych hold, but she still had her phone, or was she legitimately at a psych hold and they took everything, if they do take everything? And those are some of the little details. Yeah, that's why, like a real psych ward, a real psych ward is such, but I'm wondering if she just called it that to get, that attention from it, but she was actually just at like a stay at your own pace rehab facility or something, I don't know. That's what I imagine that being so. But that's just something that I would like to look at, is where she actually claims she was being held and where she actually was held, or if she was held at all. Because there's not necessarily any, there's a speculation you wouldn't be able to use your phone if you were in a hold, but I don't see anything that actually like documents where she was.
Her accusations against Manson and has gone off the internet and everything. A number of these accusations have actually fallen away. Annie Abrams, one of the initial accusers, she was exposed as being a complete nut job and fraud, and now she's even disowned by the accusers. All right. And going back to Evan Rachel Wood, there is more to debunk with her.
She's actually disowned. So but hey, you are. I know we wanted as many people as we could, but you are even a little bit too crazy for us. Eve Barlow, right? That's hilarious that they brought on people that they don't even want to associate with, because you are too crazy for us, and we're pretty dang crazy.
Gold, he was his guitarist on tour with him when Manson was with Evan. He and his wife both support Manson, and his wife has come out in various posts on Instagram to say, I don't recognize this person, Evan, what she's claiming to be. I remember when she used to happily do Nazi salutes backstage. Evan would do these Nazi salutes backstage when no one else was doing them at Manson shows. One of her claims is that Manson degraded her as a Jewish woman and forced her to do these degrading.
Why would anybody do that? But why? Like, what is you're just backstage by yourself doing Nazi salutes? Like, what compels someone to do that and then lie about it later? Like, first off, why would you ever do that? And then why would you? I mean, sorry, I'm going to go back and that's what the I just don't get that. I don't get that at all.
One of her claims is that Manson degraded her as a Jewish woman and forced her to do these degrading things. But in fact, I've talked to a couple of different friends of hers, Leslie Lane and also Manson's friend. They were present when Evan was bragging about painting on her Hitler mustache at the Halloween party, or when Evan was doing the Nazi salutes.
And she's Jewish, like she comes from a Jewish family and practices the religion, and she's doing
her Hitler mustache at the.
And this is what confuses me is they call him a Nazi and say he loved Nazi memorabilia, and he does all of this stuff, but he's in a pink fuzzy hat, right? He has red lipstick on. He's not in his usual getup, and she is quite literally dressed like Hitler. So who is the bad person here, just by the looks of it? I mean, that... Yeah, I think there's been quite a few people recently that we've been seeing on Twitter doing that publicly, so that's interesting. Yeah, Jesus is absolutely right. Like, why? Even if you didn't claim to be a Jew, I am not, right? I would never do this. I would absolutely never dress up as Hitler for any reason ever. So that's
Halloween party.
That's a bit much.
Or when Evan was doing the Nazi salutes off stage. Nobody was asking her to do any of that or forcing any of that. She now is trying to go back, Evan, and rewrite that history to make it seem that Manson forced these things on her. Also, Evan lied when she said that Leslie Lane and Manson's wife were conspiring to post underage photos of her. Leslie Lane and Manson have also told me that she was very experienced with cocaine and enthusiastic about that, very into drugs. And also that the relationship between Manson and her was not abusive, that if anyone was the manipulative person in the relationship, that it was Evan. And Manson debunks Evan's story about the abortion, too. I did multiple interviews with him on my channel, and he said that Marilyn Manson told him at the time that Evan was going to have an abortion, and it was some other guy's baby.
Like, hey, you good? Are you okay? And he was like, yeah, he's like, Evan's having an abortion. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And he's like, no, I don't, it's not mine.
And he said Manson didn't.
That's interesting, because, I mean, first off is you have the people saying he is not the abusive, manipulative one. If anything, it's her. It's pretty, I get, I'll talk about this here in a minute when we finish, but I get the comparisons to AH now, of playing the victim when in reality that things might not have actually been how they are behind the scenes. But not only that, what compels you to lie about the events behind an abortion? That doesn't, I just don't get why, I don't get why a lot of this stuff is brought up in relation to this kind of stuff, because I don't know, you are claiming he did these things. Why does, I guess this is probably more evidence on his side that she's not a good person, but like, why is that even being brought up in these contexts? I guess that confuses me a little bit. Someone might have more on that, and I might dig into that a little more.
Dak said about it. So here you've got Marilyn Manson actually supporting Evan Rachel Wood as she aborts another man's child.
Yeah. That's...
Also, Manson says,
I guess just to show that he's supportive and actually is a decent human being and is there to support her, even though she's doing things that he doesn't. Okay, I guess that makes sense.
That's when he was hanging out alone with Evan Rachel Wood one night, and he asked how Marilyn Manson was in bed and said, I'm sure it's pretty kinky. But Evan said, almost apologetically, oh, kind of hate to tell you this, but no, it's very sweet and nice. And basically, it's vanilla. So again, just like what Paula Vice said, Manson is not into kinky sex. People like to bring up the number of accusers. Well, I hope you're starting to get the picture that when you actually start looking at every accusation and every accuser, each one falls apart. Understand, too, that there are a number of women who were lumped into this that were just accusing Manson of, like, making bad jokes. A lot of people bring up Dan Cleary.
Yeah, and that's another thing is jokes, while they can be distasteful, are not necessarily abuse. If they were, every comedian ever would not be a comedian. They would be charged criminally for abuse, right? So while they could be distasteful, unless they are pushed over and over and over and over until the point that you are using them as psychological abuse, that's not abuse. Telling jokes is not that.
Marilyn Manson's former assistant who appears in Phoenix Rising. Well, you have to understand that he was not Marilyn Manson's assistant when Marilyn Manson was dating Evan Rachel Wood. He was a guitar and music tech, so he was not around them and hardly at all, and not in an intimate way. And Dan Cleary himself has said repeatedly, and he said on his podcast, he never saw anything abusive. He made this vague statement about Evan Rachel Wood seemed like she had a dark aura. Now, Dan Cleary was Manson's personal assistant briefly when Manson was with his current wife, Lindsay. And yet, the most that Dan Cleary accused him of, making a remark that to me sounds to me like Manson's dark sense of humor, something about how he's going to kill Lindsay and then the assistant will have to go and bury her in the desert. Do we really think that Manson was being serious about that? Look, I've talked to Manson's ex-personal assistant, Lauren Tillman, who was Manson's assistant and lived with him when Lindsay was living with him. And Lauren says that he never saw any abuse.
I never saw him any kind of aggressive behavior. I never saw any of that. And Lindsay was there too.
Did you ever observe any abusiveness toward her? No.
I never heard anything. I would have heard it, and I didn't hear anything.
And people say, what about Wes Borland? Well, Wes Borland was barely on tour. He did like 2 shows.
I don't like that guy's face. Just gonna get that out there. Yeah, I'm also amazed. Some of this stuff is actually, I don't know, after hearing all of that, some of this stuff is actually, I don't know if it just all compounds, but some of this stuff is pretty impactful. Yeah, that's exactly what she's doing. That is 100% what she's doing.
shows with Manson was not around to see anything. And look, if you investigate it, he's pissed off at Manson because Manson didn't want him. All right? Look, do you not understand that there are these crazy, tremendous egos in the music world? People love to pile on. In these situations, when someone like Manson is accused of something, then everybody starts piling on and reaching back into their mind. And what can I pull out? What about the autobiography? Yeah. Well, let me tell you, first of all, the autobiography was ghost written by Neil Strauss. And if you've read Neil Strauss...
I didn't even know there was an autobiography, so this is interesting.
This is the game, then you know that there's...
Also, I wonder why they called it an autobiography if it was written by someone else. Isn't that just a biography?
There's a lot of likely fictional stuff in there. We also know that a number of things in Manson's autobiography have already been debunked by various people, including Trent Reznor, who said those things never happened. And also, the autobiography was written by Manson and Neil Strauss at the beginning of Manson's career before he really hit it big. Don't you think there's a reason why it's written to be really provocative, especially since he was trying to make it as a kind of a shock rocker?
Yes. That what she just said right there is 100%. That absolutely makes sense. So I didn't know there was an autobiography. I also didn't, obviously, since I didn't know that there was one, I didn't know when it came out. But if it came out if it came out before he was a star, it's not like this is 20 years into his career and now he's redocumenting things. He is sitting there portraying an image of what he wants to be known as an artist. He obviously has a very dark image that propelled that image into some sort of solidarity, of a real product that people could see, like, oh yeah, look, here's an autobiography. This is actually what that is. It's the same thing that people are using these false claims for. He used that to propel his image into the spotlight. Does that make him a bad person? No, especially if he actually never took ownership of those things. Like if it's just something written about you, it propels you. You never took ownership of it. You never actually came out and said, yeah, I did all these things. He used that to propel himself. That, in my opinion, that is a very, very close parallel to what these women are doing. Is they are using these allegations, these documentaries, to propel themselves into the spotlight, right? But they're not doing it in a way that he did it. His way didn't harm anybody. Their way directly harms him and multiple people. And that I didn't think of that because I as much as I try to separate the art from the artist, I don't necessarily know him in his personal capacity. I only know him as Marilyn Manson, so it's hard for me to put it's hard for me to separate that. But now seeing you actually put that on the screen, it makes sense. That was a fictional biography of a fictional character that he is portraying. He is Brian Warner. He is not Marilyn Manson, even though when he puts on the costume, he is Marilyn Manson. That actually makes a lot more sense, and it really is brilliant, like you said. Yeah, I usually do. I didn't for this one, and I don't know why. I set everything up in StreamYard, and I didn't go my usual route, but thank you. I will do that after this ends. I'll add it, and then anything going forward, I will definitely put that stuff in there. So thank you. I actually like that quote. That is actually, yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole thing is not necessarily a joke, but it mocks, it mocks gimmicks, but his gimmick is that he is Marilyn Manson. That doesn't mean he's a bad person. I like that because it is a mockery of a gimmick while being a gimmick itself. A gimmick is just anything that you use, right? A gimmick is just something. It's not necessarily. It's what you use to get that attention, right? It's not necessarily what it is or what you are, but it is what you're using and how you are portraying yourself to be. Almost every artist ever has a gimmick. They have a shtick that they write on, right? They have that one thing that they are known for and that they use, and usually in their personal life, they are not like that at all. If you think someone like Eminem is actually doing the things that he does in his music in real life, you're wrong. He's a shock rapper just as he is a shock rocker, you know? So I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, what about the fact that Manson says that he cut himself, like 150 times after Evan Rachel Wood broke up with him? Well, I don't know if that was an exaggeration or not. Again, Manson unfortunately has exaggerated or even lied about things before to burnish his image, all right? But I do think that masochism is very different from sadism. In fact, it's kind of the opposite, okay?
It's true.
Then people say, well, what about the fact that he said that after they broke up that he wanted to smash her skull in with a sledgehammer? Well, he was talking about the inspiration for his song, I Want to Kill You Like They Do in the Movies, and it's a song about the anger of someone who's lost, who's been dumped. And I think that we've all at times had feelings, not that we would never carry out, that we would like to murder someone who has broken our heart or mistreated us, all right? So I'm not going to crucify the guy based on that one comment. Now let me remind you about what we've just been through with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. What we saw in that situation was that a man with a reputation for being kind of weird and eccentric was brought down by a woman and her fake hoax that she constructed with a number of her friends and associates who helped her perpetuate it, at least in the early stages. And yet now that that's over and we know the truth about that, people are turning around and are assuming the same things about Manson, that just because there are a number of people involved that it has to be real, or because he has this weird image that it has to be real, or because there's this beautiful woman that puts on this show of being fragile and abused that it has to be real. I'm telling you, it's not. And if what I've just laid out for you is not enough of a reason for you to at least think twice about this situation, then my God, I do not know what is. If you're interested in seeing more, like and subscribe to my channel. I've been covering this for a while, and I'm going to be covering it till the end. Bye, everybody.
So that does what she just said there. If you see all of that and you aren't willing or won't think twice about looking into information a bit more and you're stuck in your ways, that's an issue. My issue is that I've only really got the information. So I see the, obviously the alleged things, right? But I haven't really seen these accounts spoken or written necessarily from them themselves. So as mad as it's probably going to make me, I'm going to go back and look at the original allegations in how they were stated, where they were stated, just to see, because I want to see the inconsistencies for myself. But it does. Something like this absolutely should make you think twice. Here's the deal is, how am I trying to say this? If this stuff is true, there are people putting content out, making sure people know that this is true, right? There are people that are putting facts, at least evidence that could potentially be brought into the court of law and decided that they are facts. They are at least putting this evidence in front of people. Where are the people on the other side? Outside of spreading hate campaigns and attacking people on Twitter or in comment sections, where is the evidence from the other side? Where are the potential facts that could be found in a court of law on the other side? Where are the other content creators? Because there's plenty of I'm sure there are plenty of people on their side, right? Where is everything else coming from? So it is interesting, and you see this a lot with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, is people get so mad at people like that Umbrella guy, Nate the lawyer, anyone talking about these things, right? They get mad at them because, you're just putting out one side of the information. But it's like, where are you at then? If your stuff is true, if you don't sound crazy, if these things are right, then why aren't you guys making content on this? Why aren't you pushing it? Why aren't you building fan bases? Why aren't you doing all of the things that we do when we claim to be fighting for truth? And the only thing that I can think of is that it's not there. Because why else wouldn't you be, right? It's either you're going to get laughed at because everything you say is going to be able to be picked apart, or it's not there entirely, and everything that you're going to be talking about is all just, hearsay. I just don't, I don't get why you wouldn't look at this and think maybe they're lying, right? At the very least, even if it doesn't convince you, it has, I would say I'm about 88% convinced. I'm just going to throw a number out there. That if that doesn't convince you, to at least have that little bug in your brain saying they might actually be lying, I don't know. What are you doing, right? Sorry, I'm gonna go through some comments here. Yeah, that's what it seems like. I've noticed that she has a ton of videos, and you should check out her content. I actually have to give like a huge shout out to her, because when I first started making YouTube videos, she screen recorded the Amber Heard interviews, and I did some like live, not live, but like real rant and reactions to those, and that kind of propelled my channel right off the start. So without her doing that and getting those out early, I don't think I would have got those views or subscribers. So she's super cool, and she puts a ton of work into this stuff. So you guys should absolutely check her out. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. If any of this stuff is true, you don't do that kind of stuff, right? You don't back out. I mean, I see you shouldn't double down, right? These people double down on a lot of this. You absolutely shouldn't double down if it's false, but you should at least stand behind what you said, or you either stand behind what you said, or you come out and say I lied. In my opinion, those are the two things that you should do there. Yeah, and this is the thing. Is if any of this was true, you are going to the police right off the bat, right? You're not going to let someone, especially if you're not living with them, if you're not involved in a straight up abusive relationship, which I understand a lot of people are in, and you can't ask them why didn't you leave, because that is such not a it's not an okay thing to say, in my opinion, because it is much more dense of a topic. There are so many more things going on behind the scenes that it's not just, you can't just pick up and leave, right? But if you are separated, if you are no longer with this person and you're getting threats, why would you not go to the police? If you are involved with this person but you're not living together, you're actually, together but separate, why would you not go to the police? Why would you not have these conversations with other people? Why would you not figure out a way to protect yourself? That part doesn't make sense. It absolutely doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, this is I go back and forth on this, because I think any normal person should be able to have the discussions about what they believe to be facts and at least get some sort of evidence out there. But I don't believe you should be able to get on the media and spew this stuff around. You should not be able to write op-eds and spew this stuff around without at least part of it being fact-checked. Because you would think if any of these real journalists or news stations were going to publish this, that there should be some sort of fact-checking, and there's not. It's interesting. I go back and forth, because I do think this stuff shouldn't be awaited till the trial. I mean, in the court of law, yes, but in the court of everything else, public opinion and whatnot, the facts do need to be out there. But I also don't like the idea that a station can get a hold of this information and just do whatever they want with it. It kind of worries me on that side of things. Yeah, there is no innocent until proven guilty anymore. It's, let's just allege these heinous things, manufacture some outrage, and it'll be taken from there. It's really what it is. Yeah, I said this in a video a while back, is quite literally why they don't go to the police, is because they have to show some sort of proof that these things happen. And if they can't do that, then by the time they do make these allegations, it just gets mocked and laughed at. So instead, they take it upon themselves and they don't do anything. And then they decide, hey, I'm just going to do, go to social media. And it's 100% true, because you can't just you can't make a false police report, but you shouldn't. And if you do, even if it's false, you have to have some sort of evidence that would make the police believe that this report could be real, even if it's fake. So they still have to have some sort of, allegation proof. Yeah, it reminds me of this reminds me of the old, the game where the first person says something and then tells the second person, tells the third person, and you see what the first person and the 10th person's message was. That's quite literally what social media is everyone paraphrases and paraphrases and paraphrases until what actually was said is not even close to being accurate. Thank you. I really appreciate you joining me. I was kind of nervous doing this. I'm not as nervous now that we're about 2 hours into this. It's crazy that a 30-minute video took me 2 hours. But I really do appreciate you guys being here and chatting with me and helping me keep this going. I do plan to do more. I want to at least hopefully do maybe 2 live streams a week, maybe, and just touch on different topics or just chat, whatever. I have a lot of opinions, and I have a lot of things that I ultimately would like to talk about with people, and try. At the end of the day, what I truly want from my platform, if I can spread anything, it's that I want to push people to think more, think logically about things deeper than just what you see, right? And that's ultimately, so like when I do a YouTube video, I might do a topic that is a trending topic, but my topic isn't just the facts of that video, it's that with an idea behind it. So like the R. Kelly case, right? The main point I used was R. Kelly, right? He got sentenced, so my title was this. But the real theme behind the video was, when do we separate art from the artist, and when is it okay to officially cancel people, essentially? So I want things to be looked at more than just what they are on the surface, and that's what I hope to do from this. Yeah, that's my plan here. Yeah, that is true. If you guys aren't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't liked the video, please like the video. And obviously you've been commenting here the whole time, so I really do appreciate that. I think I am going to end it here. I was going to talk about some things, but I did not assume this was going to take 2 hours, and I have some other stuff I have to get to. I'm on Twitter. I assume you guys have found me from Twitter. So follow me on there. If you have any questions, want to engage anything, I'm here. Like I as long as I can be, I want to be able to engage with people. So just, let me know. Let me know what you guys think, what you have questions. If you want to see me break down anything, if you want to see how I think about things, give me topics. I'll come on here and do lives and we can talk about it. That's what I want to do ultimately, right? So don't hesitate to message me, to tag me in things or whatever. I'm here. So this will probably be the last comment I read. This case is complicated, has a lot of details and components to it. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, thank you for being here. I think I saw your name pop up earlier. I appreciate you for coming and saying that you enjoyed it, because that gives me confidence to do this again. But it is... This all broken down into 30 minutes. I assume why she did this is because that could have been talked about for 20 hours. And that's the thing, is I needed to get started somewhere. I messaged Kurtz and said, are you okay with me doing this? And she said, yes, you should start here. And then now from here, I'm going to, now that I know there's certain things, certain topics, certain allegations, certain refuting evidence to said allegations, now I know what to research and what to look for. And that's why I wanted to start here, is not only for myself being able to dig in this more, but if no one else has seen this, that I can at least get a few more eyes on it and make people interested in the case or not interested in the case. That's just, kind of the way it goes. I am, Venture First, I think, is my tag, but my actual name is, I'll type it in the thing. The AV Denicola, that's what I go by, is AVD. That's my @ so I don't know which one will come up. Yeah, if you do, and she is interested on doing that, and she wants to go live and discuss it, and we can get people in a live, I would be interested in doing that too. If she needs help promoting it or getting it in front of people, I know a couple people that we can get it in front of as well. So, yeah, I think you should. I think that would be super cool, especially with that being, I mean, one of the main things is one of the main things in multiple of these cases in the last, whatever amount of years is all false narratives. And it follows the same guidelines of how, political theater is being spread, of how mainstream media is spreading things. So it like I said earlier, it is just so weird that it's just so weird that these people are using the same mechanisms. I'm trying to think of the word. But just like using the same way that they do it on a mainstream, a political scheme, and then they do it here. And it's just crazy how many people just latch onto a false narrative and never look past the surface level of it. And that's why I'm here, right? That is ultimately what I want to be able to break down. So that would be super cool. Yep, it definitely is. But thank you guys again. I really do appreciate you guys for being here. I cannot express that enough. This was nerve-wracking for me. It's no longer nerve-wracking. I know I have at least 8 to 10 people that'll come watch me, right? That is plenty for me. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. If you want to see me cover anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here. And remember, in order to venture deeper, one must venture first. And that's exactly what I'm here to do today. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm going to end the live here. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.